Okay, so today we're going to talk about how, what is, runtime exceptions and how they will happen. So yesterday we looked at the compile time exceptions. Those exceptions will happen while you're writing the code. Runtime exceptions are the exceptions will happen during the execution of the program. Meaning, so when you're writing here, you get some exception. That is compile time. So execution means whenever I do run. I mean, if I am doing a run as a Java application, that means I am running this code. So that's the execution time. So today we are going to look at the problem errors that happen during the runtime. Now, so I will take the same person class. Okay. So just a brand new method, and then I'm naming as get first name. Now, I'm saying here I'm returning null. And can you tell me why, any one of you tell me why it is showing an error? Why this is showing as an error? Anybody has any idea? We've been talked about it.
Void written nothing, right?
Yes. That's why it is giving you a problem. So this method return type is void, meaning this method should not return anything, but I am trying to return something. That's why it's failing. So now if I say here string, so I need to mention some return type. Now, no problem. So that's why I get this. Now let's say in the first name I'm not returning anything, just return now. Now go here. New person. I'm creating an object of the person class again. Person1 is my object variable name. Now person1 dot get first name. Let me put in a system.out.println. So now when I execute this program, it will execute without any problem. It's just that it will print null because person.getFirstName is null. That's all. Now, I am trying to do, what I am returning here, null here, but the method return type is string. So that means string class has, so string is also Java inbuilt class. I mean, you just double click on it and you will see a lot of string methods. So this is all string class, JDK provides, and which will have a lot of methods. These are all very different methods available in string class. I mean, that means you can do, many manipulations around string using all these methods. So this is all provided by the JDK. Now, when come back to the R situation, get first name. And then get first name, the whole highlighted one, person1 dot get first name will return string object. Now, that means dot. I'm saying I'm trying to print string length. That means character length. If it is 3 characters, it will print 3. Now I'm doing length. So now here, if you see, there is no error. While I am writing the code, there is no error. Let's execute this. It failed. So it throws null pointer exception. So the code is fine, but while you are running it, you are getting a null pointer exception. So null pointer exception is one of the exceptions throws during the runtime. So why the null pointer exception throws? Person1 dot get first name is actually returning null object. There is no object, it's a null object, dot length. So we are trying to call length method on null object. That's why you get the null pointer exception. So this is runtime exception. If these kind of things happens, you can do if person1 dot get first name not equal to null. You are checking against the null object. Not equal to null, then print this. Otherwise, just ignore. I mean, I'm not doing anything. I'm just keeping a simple if condition. If get first name is not equal to null object, then go inside and print this. Now let's see. So there is no print statements here. Now let's go to the return and say just go over them. Now run the same method again. Now you will see total length is 9 characters. So here it's 9 characters. So that is nothing but runtime exception. So now, when the runtime exception happens, so you can handle this way, or as I explained you yesterday, you can still throw the exception and all that stuff. So something like this. And now I'm calling here person. I'm creating one more method, public length. I mean, length is nothing but int get first name length. I'm creating one more method. So which should return an integer. Now I'm saying return this dot get first name. I'm calling the first method. This dot get first name dot. So you can do any number of dots. Get first name itself is an object. So on the object you can call another method. So on the object I am calling get length. Get first name dot. No, I think get first name dot just length. That's the method. Yeah. So now here it will return whatever the length it comes from. Let's say I'm trying to execute the same get first name length here. So now what happens whenever I'm executing this method, it will go into first name length. That means this method, and then which will call this dot get first name. This means this current person object. This means any methods available under this class will be available. Dot get first name means it will call this method, which will return, go over them, and on top of highlighted text will return, go over them, and then I am measuring the length of it. So now you will see, let's say I'll put in a print statement just for the demo purpose. now same thing. You get the same thing, length 9. So now I am going to return this null. Okay. So now let's execute this same program. Null pointer exception happened at this line because this will call person class length method, and then which will call get first name. That means this will return null. Null dot length throws null pointer exception. So now in this situation, just like I explained you yesterday, you can throws exception. You can write this. Or null pointer exception. So exception is a superclass. Either you can call a superclass or specific class also. But okay. So now I keep it an exception. So now let's go back to the welcome. Now if you see here, this became in red color just like the way I explained you yesterday. So because get first name length throws an exception which is not handled in the welcome class because we are calling the get first name length. So now just say try, I'm keeping a try block. So now we'll go to catch block and it should print seeing something wrong. Okay. So that's how you can do runtime exceptions happens. If you want to handle here, you can handle. If you don't want to handle, you can throw exceptions like this. And whenever you throw exceptions, you need to handle manually somewhere. I mean, as explained you, right? I mean, if you have in a method chaining from method 1, method 2, method 3, something like that. If method 3 throws exception, either you need to catch in method 2 or throw from method 2 to 1. And in method 1, we need to handle the exception the way I explained you here. So that's about runtime exceptions. Any questions?
No, sir.
No questions. Yeah.
Okay. So I am giving a high level of how the exceptions works. You need to read through a lot of material around this, and ask me more and more questions I can answer. And now let's get into collection framework. Did you read any material around collections?
No.
Okay. Do anybody has any idea what is Java collection?
Collection is the group of data, list or set.
Okay. So I'll try to bring up some chart and see how it is. I'll show you what it is. So for everything, you need to get into only here. So again, you see here java.util.collections. This is a package. Under the Java util is a package. Within the util package, you have collections as a class. So this collections class extends, and as I explained, it extends, superclass object. So now under this collections, you can see, lot of under the Java util, you will have multiple interfaces, classes, implementations. So collections is the most used package for any Java JDE based development, either is Spring or Hibernate, whatever you use in Java, collections is the mostly used package. So you need to be very, very familiar with collections to do any development in Java. Now, so you need to, these are all, I explained you, right? I'll give you the conceptually how it is, and you need to go through all each method level in detail, but I'll give you the, a high level. Some tutorial might be there. So whatever you see here, right, docs.oracle.com, that's the official documentation for you. So in the collection, there are multiple types. As I explained you here, set, list, map. These are all three different types of main interfaces available in collections. So each one has a meaning in it. I'll give you high-level overview of what it is. So let's get rid of these methods, and I'll just write some simple text here. In the collections, you will have set, map, and one other is there. Yeah, and list. So these are all interfaces. So most of the classes in collection framework will implement any one of these three interfaces. So each interface has its own meaning. Set means it will not, I'll talk about set first. So why should we use a collection framework first of all? So collection framework is to handle the data that is, either you need to cache data, handle data that is coming from database, and you want to convert the data however you want, and before sending it to the UI or before sending it to any REST-based web services. Meaning, let's say in the table, something like this. You have a table, employee table, and let's say employee table has how many do anyone has any idea on how the databases are?
No idea.
Okay, not a problem. So generally what happens in the database is the place where you end up storing all the data. For a company, let's say for a company, there are so many employees. So each employee's details will be stored in the database. So let's say you store first name, last name, for example. I'm giving you only two columns, first name, last name, and salary. So let's say the database has these three information for every employee in a company. Now, I need to display all these employees' information in the UI, meaning in the web. I'm building a .com application, and I need to display first name, last name, and salary for each employee, for example. So let's say I'm having only small company with 10 people. Now I need to display all their information on the web page. So in this situation, we will pull the data from database. I will explain you that in a little bit later time. Whenever we get into Spring Framework, I'll explain you how the database interactions and things works. So now what we do is we'll fetch the data from, fetch means you get the data from database. Now, how do you want to send this data to the UI? So by using Java, we can fetch the data. Now, once you get the data, you need to process that data or, cache that data, however you want to do, all the data processing will happen at Java level, data processing at Java level. And once the processing is done, send the data to web UI, and then UI will display the data on the browser. This is how the typical workflow happens. Now, we are talking about this layer, data processing at Java level. To do the data processing, we need to have some kind of implementation. Either you need to do your own implementation, or instead of doing your own implementation, JDK provides a lot of classes and interfaces to process the data. So this is the place where we end up using collections. So that's the use of collections in JDK. Now, how you can, while you're using collections, they have come up with 3 different types of interfaces. So as you know, every interface will have only definitions, and the implemented classes should implement how the definitions to be implemented. Now, let's get into these 3 different types of interfaces. Set. What it does is, set will eliminate duplicates. I mean, you can say, let's say first name 1. Let's say you can store the data in the set as a, let's say you have only 3 employees. And you can store first name 1, first name 2, and first name 3. Only 3 employees we are talking about. So now, in the set, you can store something like this, meaning, so all the first names should be defined. I cannot store like this. So set will eliminate any duplicate values, It won't allow you to save duplicate data. That's the purpose of set. Now, lists. I'll come back to the other one. List. You can store any data like this. I mean, it won't, it will allow duplicates. You can store any data there. First name to 10 times, 100 times, no problem. It will allow duplicates. Now, map. Map is nothing but key value pair. Meaning, let's say you wanted to do something like this. Here, I will change this example a little bit. So let's say first name I'm saving as Govardhan. In the set, I'm saving as a Bala. Not left meeting. Okay, that's fine. And I'm storing as Arun. So this is how you can store the data. So in the list condition, a list interface, you can store the same data, but you can also store the same names again and again. I can store Arun again also, no problem. So in the map condition, key value pair, meaning my key is something like first name and value is Govardhan. So, and similarly, another key is first name, and you can store value as Bala. So that's the difference. I mean, you can store as the map is like list of strings. I mean, each map you can have something like this. So first name Govardhan, last name Singularity in one single map, you can store like this. So it's basically key value pair structure. So that's the purpose of 3 different interfaces. We will go one by one in detail and explain you how each works. So this is the basic purpose of collections and basic difference between major interfaces. Any questions?
Sir, please repeat map, sir. I didn't understand how map works.
Okay. So in the map, map is like a key value pair. I mean, for every key, how can I say? Let's try to give you a pictorial representation and see. And I looked at that pictorial representation. I did not get it. So something like this. So you can, in the map, you can create a map object, and then you can create key value pair, map.put1 Amit. That means whenever from this map, when you say, first one is key and second one is value. So when you are fetching the data from this map, if you say map.get1, and it will return you Amit. So every value will be associated with an identifier. So the first key is nothing but an identifier. Value is the real value. So in case of if I want to do, I'll give you a practical example of what it is. Maybe you'll get some understanding around that. I think I need to create a method public. Void demo. So I'm creating a demo map method, and inside the map, I'm creating a map. So you see the java.util. That's where the package map is coming. Map and key and value. When you're defining the key and value, key can be any type, any of the type you want. So let's say key can be int. You can define that. So that means you can store only integer type. So for now, for this demo, I'll keep like string. So string is my key. That means my identifier is of string type. And the value is also string. For example, I'm storing a value as a string. So now I'm creating the variable name employee details equal to new hash map. So now in the employee details dot put, I'm keeping one by one item into the employee detail, just like an array. I mean, just like a, you have a stack of, let's say you have a shelf and you're keeping the items one on the other, one by one, with some identification. Color blue, you pick, you get this item, red, you get this item, something like that. So now here I'm saying employee details. I'm saying I'm storing as first name is my key and the value as go over them. And employee details dot put last name as Singularity. I'll give one more value. Employee details dot put. Like this, you can put any number of elements into the collection, into the map. So now I'm saying, email something like that. So I kept all my data. I mean, I got all this data, first name, last name, email from the database. I filled up into the collection. Now, I stored the information into a map. How can I get the information outside from the map? So to retrieve the data from the map, what you have to, I keep the all print statements here. So now here I'm saying employee details dot get object is key. Key is the first one. Key is nothing but first name. So using the identifier, using these keys, you can fetch the values. So it's like a pairing. I mean, what is key and associate any value with a specific identifier. So now, let's say I try to get this demo to be executed here. I will remove everything. Person1 dot demo map. Now you see it. Go version. Because I am fetching only one element, that's why using the first name I got the value. If I don't use a proper key identifier, something like this, there is no first name 11 in my map. So in that situation, you cannot retrieve any data from the map. Now you see none. Because there is no key available with first name 11 in this map. So that's how you can store the data as a key value pair, and you can fetch the data wherever you need. So I did the fetching here. If you don't, I mean, if you wanted to get this data some other class, just return the return type as map and string, key and values of that string, and return, because this method expects the return, and return the employee details. Now, go back to here. So demo map is nothing but employee details. I'm assigning to a variable here. And you can print, you can retrieve the data in welcome class also. Just like this, any class in your application, you can retrieve the data that is stored in the map. Employee details dot, again, get key. This time I want to fetch last name. So you just pass the last name identifier. I mean, this is the identifier available in person class. Use the same identifier and run now. That's it. I got singularity. So that's how you can use maps. Prashant, you were able to understand?
Yes, sir, but one doubt, in 16th line, hash map is there, sir. What is hash map, sir?
So, I'll get back to that also, because I just explained because of here. So now, every map, so now I showed you these are all the three types. So when you click on the map, map is an interface. Map is implemented in many places. I mean, these are all the different classes available in JDK is implemented map. So every map purpose is very, very different. So we are using hash map. So hash map is nothing but a key value pair, and hash table is also a key value. Everything here is a key value pair, but the way it is implemented is very, very different. You need to read all this material to understand. So how the key value pair is implemented in each of these classes, you have to go through this material. That's why I told you yesterday to read some material around collections. So for everything, you don't need to go. I mean, you can get a lot of material other places also, but this is in official website. So whatever they mentioned here will be 100% right. Yeah.
Then I have a question. Like, what is the general difference between arrays and collection? I mean, whatever list map and all. Like, when do we use regular arrays and when do we use this kind of collection?
Okay. So I'll answer that. So arrays are simple arrays, string arrays. I mean, let's say, for example, you wanted to store any object level information. Then you need to use collections. So, for example, something like this. Let's say you wanted to create a simple string array. And, I think some variable. And in the names, you want to type this is a simple array. So there is no objects involved in it. This is plain, simple, primitive types. You wanted to store something like this, you can use a normal arrays. So even for int type also, you will have nums. You can do the same. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you wanted to store a simple types, here there is no object. These are all primitive types available in Java. These are all plain arrays. But if you wanted to store the data, more than this, I mean, you want to process the data using Java objects, create, this is all objects. Create an object, store key value pair very differently, or store, employee objects in the list. Those kind of situations, you need to use collections. But I'll go through, in detail around the collection. The primary difference between arrays and collections is arrays will be used for primitive data types in Java. Collections will be used for objects.
Okay.
Okay? Answer, Bala?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, Prashant, I think you were asking some question. Did you?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. So that's the differences. So now, when you said hash map, right? So these are all different ones. Now go through this material little bit further, and then I can explain you more. That way you will understand what I'm talking about. So I'll give you at a high level of what is list and set. So I'll leave there for today's class. So let's say public and return type is list. List of strings or list of employee objects. Per se, I'm creating an employee object. List of employee objects, get employees. So employee is an object. I don't have any employee object defined in my project. So now let me create an object of employee, a class of employee. So now I'm creating employee class. So here I'm creating private string first name, private string last name, and now I created just two variables in my employee class, and then I'm going to create, because these variables are private, that means nobody can access these variables outside of the employee class. So to access them outside the employee class, I am trying to create methods. I'm just creating get and set methods to access the data. So now here you see this. So to fetch the first name from this class, I'm using a public method, get first name, which will return string, which is returning directly first name. So this is how you can access the private variables outside the class by using methods. So for our example, I just created a first name and last name. To change any value of the objects, you can use set methods. To get the value of the object, a value of any variable, use get methods now. So here I am creating a list of employees. So now one more thing I can do here is to make it simpler. I'm going to create a constructor, public. You already know about it. So string f name string l name. Meaning, I'm just creating a random variable, so argument for the constructor. So now inside this, I'm saying this dot first name, and I'm assigning whatever the value coming from the constructor. And similarly, this dot last name, I'm assigning the last name variable with whatever the value coming from the constructor. Now let's go back here. And now I'm creating an object of the employee class. Now employee first name, I'm saying Govardhan, and last name Singareddy. This is employee 1, first employee object. Now similarly, I am creating another employee object. Now you can create any number of objects of a class. So this time I'm creating Bala and first name and last name. Now this is my second employee object. So like this, you can create any number of employee objects. I'll create the third one. I'll leave it there. So R1. So this is my third object. Now, how I can put these objects into the list? I created 3 objects, fine, but I need to put everything into a list and send it to whoever is calling this get employees method. To do that, you can create array lists. There are multiple classes, array list and vector. So we'll go deeper in details. I'm just giving a basic demo. Array list and employees. This is my object name. So now here E. E means what type of list you are going to create. What type of objects this list will hold. So that is nothing but employee objects. It should hold employee type of objects. That's why you need to declare like that. So now once you define your array list with what type of objects, and now you can slowly add all these employee objects into that. So now you need to read through a lot of documentation of each class. If you see here, these are all methods available in the list array list class. So these are all methods available from the array list class, which is provided by JDK. So here one of the methods is add. So see here, I'm adding it. It automatically suggests what to be done with this. So now I'm adding here one by one. Employee 1. Because I created an employee list object, and then I keep on adding all employees. Add employee 2, and I'm going to add the third one also. So now I created my array list and I put them all the employee objects. Now this method expects return type as list of objects of employee type. So now I am returning employees. So I collected all data, I put in the list, I am passing this list back to whoever calls this method. Now let's go back to the welcome class. So here I am saying person1 dot get employees. So this should return all my employees that I just created. So now on the employees, once you get the list, you can do process however you like. You can apply any logic however you want. For example, I want to know how many employees. So now simply you can say total employees. So these are all the methods available in employees.size. So this should print 3. So total employees is 3. So whenever it is stored in the employees object, so now I created the list object here. So each element stored using based on the index concept. So first one will be stored at 0. The index starts with a 0. So and this element will be stored at the index 1. The index means it's kind of a memory reference, you can say. So this is how whenever you fetch the elements, loop through this list, it will loop through based on these indexes. So now let's look at how this loop works. Now here, I want to loop through all the employees objects and print that information. So for loop, and because it is an array list is of employees, of employee type, the for loop should get something like this. So for loops you can write like this, or for, I'm giving you 2 different types. Other one you already know previously, index, int, index, I'm creating a variable name equal to 0, index less than employees.length.
Size, right?
Employees.size. Size, index, plus, and then you can do this way. So this is like a traditional loop, a traditional way of declaring for loops. This is a modern way of declaring for loops. So in the both situations, the code execution in the internals are same. There is no difference. So now let's look at the first loop. I'll explain you in both loops also. So now here I am trying to print each time the employee, I'll fetch the employee object, and then here I am trying to print employee.get first name. Now let's look at the first for loop, how that works. So now you see here, Govardhan, Bala, Arun. However, the data I stored, first is Govardhan, second is Bala, third is Arun. So however the data is stored, I am retrieving the data in the same order the way I stored. Okay? So that's how the index is used. If you want to print the same employee's information, here you cannot do like this because there is no employee object available inside this for loop. What you have to do is employee of index. Employees of index. So what I'm doing here is okay, I see the problem. This should be it. Index is coming, right? Let's see. employees dot get. That's the method available at the array list level, not at the object level. At the array list level, you see the index. So now here I am passing the index. So each index, based on the index, what type of objects we are storing in array list? Employee type objects. So now it will return employee type object, and then I am printing the same thing, employee dot get first name. Now let's see the second loop. I mean, just for the sake of the difference, I'll keep some second. So I'm trying to print the second loop. Now let's see, and the both loops will execute, and you can see the results. See that the first one is also same, and the second time also when I loop through, I'm getting the same situation. So either you can loop the objects array list like this or like this. So by doing this, you don't need to write an extra line, and you don't need to declare yourself all this calculation here. So that's the simplest way of creating for loops. Once you get the employee object, because here we are looking through, right? So you can fetch every data of the object. So employee dot get first name, get last name, and whatever. So now you execute. I'm trying to execute again. Now you see Govardhan, Singareddy, Bala, Malreddy, and all that. So now this is how you can loop through it. Let's say you are sure of to fetch only the second object of the collection. You can do that. Employee dot get, as I explained you, right? So first element is 0, second, the index starts with 0. When I say the second one, I'll get this. So it should print Bala. You can directly fetch the objects of the array list, and you can use however you like. Now you see it. See, this one is coming from here. So just for the sake of it, direct access. See that? Direct, you get Bala. So now, let's say I'm trying to. I'm trying to get the element at index 2. I'll get Arun now. See that? Directly changed to Arun because we stored Arun at index 2, employee 3, this object. So now, let's say I'm making it to 3. This is also one type of runtime exception. See this, index out of bound exception. Meaning I'm trying to fetch an element at index 3, and in our collection, there is no element at index 3. There is no index created for third, at the third index to fetch an object. That's why this means you are fetching an element which does not exist in the list. Any questions?
Have a question?
Yeah?
No question, sir.
Yeah, Bala, go ahead.
So, what is the maximum number of indexes we can add?
Unlimited. You can do unlimited into the list.
So it's really difficult to iterate, right? If I have a list of assume that there are 500 employees.
Okay.
So how do I add to the list?
No, you can add. Keep on add, right? Add. I mean, so here, because for the demo purpose, I have mentioned like this. In a real-time scenario, you get from the database directly. Select start from data and loop through it and put into the list.
Okay, collection. Okay.
Yeah.
So you use this when you have a data coming from the backend.
Correct. So we just call a select star from query for the database, and if the database is 500, you can fetch all 500, loop through it, and put one by one into the list. That is one way of doing. Usually in nobody will display 500 elements in the UI, 500 employees information. You go in a pagination manner, right? Pages. First 10, and then click next, and next 10, next 10, like that.
Okay.
So in that situation, from the database, we fetch only 10 records and process here and send it to the UI.
Okay.
That's how it works.
So actually, set you said that it actually eliminates the duplicates, right? So
Yeah.
when you use a query, you can actually eliminate the duplicates.
Yeah, you can at the database level also, if you wanted to do, you can do that. So I'll explain you the set, how the set works, how to eliminate duplicates tomorrow. So you guys have any questions?
No questions.
Okay. So tomorrow, let me start the recording.